Confession. I abused my cousin for most of our childhood. I am not sure how exactly to start this thing. He was between the ages of 7 to 13. I was 3 years older. We would always play video games on my console together. I was very conceited and selfish and narcissistic back then, and every time he beat me at a video game I'd go apeshit on him. We had a wired controller and I would always unplug it and just sling it everywhere on his body. He'd scream sorry and stuff and beg me to stop. I'd keep doing it. Every single time. This lasted for years. I was a fucking shit child. Always complaining, always making things about me, always being a cunt to my cousins when they did nothing to deserve it and actually always were nice to me. For years this went on with him. He still came over, still played games with me, still spoke as if we were friends, and none of that ever happened. When he was about 8, we decided to go outside. We were at my house, and we had a trampoline in the front yard. We always jumped on it for fun and stuff, and being the cunt I was, I devised a plan. I found that there were a bunch of rocks underneath the trampoline, and told my cousin to check underneath and look at one that happened to be right in the center of the trampoline. I told him to stay put and keep staring, while I hopped up and positioned myself. I centered myself on his head. And I jumped. The full force of my weight just came crashing down on him and his head. He hit the ground hard. All I heard was a thud, and then a pained scream. Everybody in the house came running toward him, and I got scared. Not even for his sake, the only thing I was scared of was the idea of getting in trouble. I pulled him out from underneath and pretended to care about his well-being when in reality I wanted this to all seem like an accident. I don't know everything else that happened after that, it all went by really fast. A year after that, the abuse and everything finally stopped. He still came over and we still played games together. I remained calm this time, still getting slightly irritated but still managed. And by the time I turned 16 I remembered everything I did to him. It all came flooding back. I felt guilty, disgusted. I still do. I don't think I will ever not feel like shit about it. I don't know why I was the way I was, and I can't make a single excuse for it. I was a horrible human being back then. Child or not, that is no excuse. I'm never going to let myself live this down. Have you told him how much your past behavior disgusts you and sincerely apologized to him? It might mean more than you know to him. He definitely deserves it. I think you should tell him this and apologize to him. I agree you should apologize, but full weight underneath the trampoline? You're a psycho, mate. Even as a kid you should have realized this was abuse. But your poor cousin didn't know any better. You really seem to be an absolute shit stain. Nonetheless you realize that yourself, and that's what takes guts. As a kid my brother constantly terrorized me psychologically and never even once apologized for it and always acted like he never did anything wrong. He still doesn't understand why I hate him and my family thinks I should forgive him. Yeah, might want to discuss this with your cousin. Not for you, obviously, but for him. He deserves that apology, even if he doesn't think about it. Holy shit. That behavior is downright sociopathic. You absolutely need to apologize to him. All that shame and guilt you feel? That's nothing compared to what you put him through. Say sorry to him and stop worrying about your ego in doing so. Your behavior was disgusting and you probably need to seek therapy. None of what you described above is even remotely normal. You've probably scarred that kid for life. I hope you consider getting some therapy for yourself. It might help you find the root of it. Also apologize to your cousin. I'm quite surprised that you came out the other side and can clearly see how wrong your behavior was, whilst at the time you didn't. You need to seek professional help. Seriously, that's psychopath behavior. It just doesn't go away. Removed. What the fuck? You owe that kid, big time. You need to see a therapist, dude. I know you are saying you're sorry, you may even feel that way. But that's sociopathic behavior. You may be emulating remorse because you feel it's expected of you. Please realize I am not trying to pick on you. You might need some help. If not, then fine, but I talked to a professional to go through it. As someone who was abused, not as much as what you did, though, by my cousin, I think that he will gladly take the apology. I never got one. I almost lost an eye because my cousin was mad about stupid stuff, so he loaded a sling, that stick that has a rubber and you use it to shot stones, full force, and shot a stone to my head. I heard it fly by my right ear. I know that the dude had a lot of problems at home and that he wasn't evil by nature. I'm not even mad at him anymore, But oh boy, do I not want an apology for being a bully for so many years. I wrote this knowing that you want to apologize. Just know that it will be for the better, even if it's difficult. Wow, you are a fucking cunt, man. I legit got mad reading this. You better talk to that kid and apologize. For him to keep being your friend makes him a better person than IBQAce I would got you back worse. He more than deserves that apology and is someone I would want to be on good terms with. You might want to invite a neutral third party to the apology meeting. I have seen that done/suggested for when someone needs to apologize for incidents of trauma. If you have a trusted mentor/friend or older relative who cares about both of you, I think you may find that it will keep the meeting feeling safe. You don't know to what extent you have really traumatized this person, but the last thing you want is for this meeting to also be traumatic for him. Well, you are a disgusting cunt. Apologize to him. He would appreciate it and you would feel better. Update us when you apologize. Wow, this is just evil. No judgment. What made you want to do all of that? You're a piece of work op, and just like when you were a child pretending to care for his well-being to mask getting in trouble, you'll do the same now and only fantasize about actually reaching out to apologize cause you're a coward and you know it. You'll rather live with the guilt than to get out of your way to mend things, cause that's just the type of person you are. What do you think drove you to be so abusive? Were you subjected to any kind of similar treatment at any point, or was your environment emotionally abusive in some way? I've always found it hard to get my head around the idea that behavior like that can just arise out of nowhere. I find it hard to believe that you have completely changed. It is possible you have made improvements to your behavior, but that kind of stuff doesn't just go away. Especially if it went all the way into your teen years. You could have killed him. The kid probably hates your guts. You can apologize to him, but you should also tell his parents, your parents, anyone that might feel even the least bit guilty for what happened to him when you pulled that stunt on the trampoline. Please, please, seek therapy and find the root of this behavior. Because it does not go away like that. It sinks deep inside and it will come out again if you don't find what caused it and what can be done about it. You're a psychopath. I did fucked up shit to this kid who practically worshipped me for years, and in fact I could have fucking killed him at one point despite the fact that he'd been nothing but nice to me. But I feel bad now, so it's okay. Sorry op, but I hate you, you fucking psychopath. That's awful. How old are you now? Were you supposed to be babysitting them? I find it difficult to believe that you have changed as much as you claim. Very few people go from doing shit like you just described, for 6 years, to being good people in a few years span, especially without any extreme life events to completely rebuild the way they think about the world. Or medication. Let me guess, you've only been a little abusive to the people around you lately, so you think you're a sparkly new and better you? Maybe he just got too old to be such an easy target, now that he can recognize what you're doing to him for what it is. It's not so fun to you now that he's not so little and easy to hurt and manipulate, so you stopped, and you just haven't found a new target yet. You weren't a little kid. You did this as a teenager too. This isn't childhood antics you can dismiss, this is you. Probably should watch yourself around vulnerable people for the rest of your life. I agree with the comments above. You definitely need to look into therapy if you haven't already. That kind of behavior is a little much. You sound just like my older brother when we were kids. I never realized it was abuse until I was much older. My abuse was both physical and sexual, and I never forgave him. In fact, I had written him out of my life completely. He died less than a year ago and I didn't go to the funeral, couldn't care less. I don't know why I was the way I was. Your story displayed traits of a mental disorder in the order/nature of antisocial personality disorder. You could be a sociopath. A psychopath would not know that being that violent was wrong, but a sociopath would know but wouldn't care. It seems that you knew what you were doing was wrong, but you cared only to not get caught, not about your cousin. You should seek therapy, man. It's a good step. Feel guilty about it, but you still need to try to repair that damage and avoid to do it to some other Ben in the future. That trampoline incident was disgusting to read, and that shit is not normal at all. I'm trying my best to not insult you in this post, but believe me, it's fucking hard. You were a fucking wanker. Wow, I posted on this sub about scamming people out of online Diablo 2 items when I was 10 and I got torn to shreds and called the worst person on existence lol. Sure, you did a bad thing, man, but you recognize it, and know you're a better person now. Congratulations. My boyfriend was sexually abused by his cousin once, as far as I know, when he was 11 and his cousin was I think 5 years older. It made him spend years in therapy and he still struggles with suicidal thoughts and anger 15 years later. He still acts friendly toward his cousin like nothing happened and justifies what his cousin did because he found out that his cousin's stepdad was abusing him for years. But they've never discussed it at all and it's very obvious to me that he is still very affected by that one time, so I can't imagine what your cousin is going through. I think your cousin would greatly benefit knowing how guilty you feel about tormenting him, but after you come clean you should work on forgiving yourself for being a child. That is monstrous behavior. I was abused sexually by my dad. He ruined my life. The right thing to do would to confront him and beg on your knees for forgiveness. You may have ruined someone's life. Fix it. Instead of posting a guilty confession hoping someone will sympathize with your guilt. Also, that is literally psychotic behavior. If you want to change, get help. If you think you're better now compared to then, you wouldn't be here. You would be making amends. Like, damn, this is horrible. It's okay, he'll probably kick your ass soon enough. I know this isn't really an advice sub, but you really need to talk to your cousin and acknowledge all the things you did. I can't imagine the relief they will feel knowing that you actually feel bad and realize how terrible you were to them. The growth of who you are now will only help to strengthen the bond you guys have created in the long run. I need to hug my dog after reading this. Before you speak to him, you should speak to a professional. Behavior like that isn't the result of that darn kid situation. They can help you navigate the why of you having done it and also help you tell him you are sorry. Things like that will haunt a kid for years. You should apologize. Honestly, I don't even know what to say. You're a complete piece of trash. If you're serious about getting better, go see a therapist, and TBH, he probably needs one too. What the fuck is wrong with you? I don't think you'll apologize. I hope you do, but you're awful. Back then? You are just a horrible human being, full stop. I am usually a very empathetic and forgiving person, but you are a maniac, dude. You could have killed your cousin, and now all you care about is the uncomfortableness of having to apologize even though you have owed him one for a damn long time. I really hope you do so and get therapy. That isn't normal at all. You seem like a grade A sociopath. You should tell your cousin's parents what you used to do as well. They have every right to know their child was being abused. If you truly will never let yourself live it down, you should do everything you can to make sure your whole family knows what you used to do. You are a piece of shit. And #X200B. But at least you admit it. The adults around you deserve at least as much blame. Children need to be supervised by an adult, not dumped off with a slightly older child. I had a similar experience with a cousin who was enabled by the neglect of adults. Wow. You are a massive piece of human garbage. You genuinely are very lucky that you didn't kill him with that trampoline stunt. You should 100% speak to a professional about this. I hope he gets jacked as hell and beats the shit out of you for all the abuse you've provided him. Please remind him and apologize. If you are truly repentant and contrite and not just being a typical narcissist, then tell him you're sorry you were such a tool when you were a kid. You had issues and feel bad about how immature you were, and get him a nice gift. Don't post about it on Reddit and do nothing like a coward would. When I was really young, I had a friend do this to me as well. Don't remember it that well, but I do remember the absolute pain I was in. The amount of force a body, no matter the weight, fucking hurts. You gotta be a whole new level of dick. Definitely apologize, because I haven't talked to said friend after that. He thought he did nothing wrong. You were like Macaulay Culkin in The Good Son. Jesus, man, Lamau, as if you'll apologize. I hope you have no friends, and finally you should let him jump down on your head from a trampoline. And for the comment, little shit then, are not little shits when they're big piss in your mother's mouth with that crap. Little shit then, turn into assholes when they're older. Seeing that you came brag here first, show everything, you should not have to ask to apologize. You should have done it by now. It's people like you that ruin the world for everybody else. I get it. I could be a horrible child too, but I think looking back, I was a child in incredible emotional pain and chaos. Not that that's an excuse to hurt others. I've really changed, but it's took so long. I've had to develop empathy and compassion that I didn't naturally have. I feel gutted about ever hurting anyone, so I think the important thing is how you feel about pain you've caused and are resolved to change. I think the fact you're really gutted about it is the measure of the decent person you are. I definitely sit down and really open up to him about it. Will probably be therapeutic for you both. I hope you have apologized to him and carry him around in a golden chair now. I'm glad you realized what a shit you were and have made an effort being a better person. It's not just on you. Your parents failed big time. It's their job to raise a decent person and you were far from it. You need to apologize to him in person and take ownership for your deplorable behavior and utter cowardliness. I absolutely give you credit for recognizing your wrongdoing. However, as an outside person reading this, my blood certainly is boiling and you owe that poor soul an incredible reparation. Wow, fuck you. Removed. When did you change, do you think? Have you talked with your cousin since the change? How are they? Do other people in your family know about your abuse? Also, I think it's good that you recognize what you used to be. It shows that you've changed. People who think change is impossible. I really don't know if this helps, but growing up my cousin was similarly physically and mildly sexually abusive, touching disguised as affection or playing. I, female, 3 years younger, thought the sun shone out of his asshole, which is why I kept playing with him despite his treatment. As we grew older, we still associated, and the abuse died down. I know he tried to build up the courage to apologize several times and never could. I know he is racked with guilt. I'm 35 now, and we rarely talk. He had such a screwed up childhood, I know that. I miss the parts of him that weren't fucked up that I got to see and enjoy. The moments of play before it got rough. I know that he genuinely loved me, and had terrible examples of how to express love. I know he would hate to hear me say that because it makes me sound like I'm ripe to be abused again. I know if he found out someone was abusing me, he would put that person in a grave, happily go to jail and call it justice finally served. I wish he would just find a way to be my friend again, whether or not that process included apologizing. That fucked up hot mess is a family member I wouldn't trade for anything. You absolutely should feel like shit, and if you ever apologize to him he has absolutely no reason to forgive you. Repeating what others have already said, but you are so lucky that you didn't kill him with that trampoline stunt. I was on the receiving end of similar treatment from my own cousin, only difference was that we are the same age. I'm just a few months older. For years my cousin would torment and belittle me, and it got to a point where I straight up told him I hate him. He's the only person that I have actually said those words to. Don't let it get to this point. Take it from someone whose relationship with their cousin can never be fixed. If you truly feel bad, then apologize and make it known how terrible you feel. Especially since it seems like your cousin didn't do anything to deserve this kind of treatment. Why, you're a piece of shit, you're a cunt. I grew up with an abusive older figure, not a cousin really, but somehow related to me. Holding me underwater until I started to black out, whipping me with cables. The trampoline thing is pretty similar too. I cannot bring myself to forgive him. Ever. The damage is immense, more than you can possibly realize. Last thing I would ever want is for him to ever enter my life again. I mean shit, maybe it's you by some crazy coincidence because this stuff is horribly familiar to me. People giving you advice about reaching out don't seem to know what the fuck they are talking about. I think you should seek professional help for this. This type of behavior isn't normal, and I don't know if someone can just heal from it. I'm going to advise you the exact opposite of what everyone else is doing. Don't apologize. Don't ever bother your cousin again. If he feels like it, he will reach out to you. You're only going to guilt trip him into accepting your apology. As Michael Jordan once said, get some help. Why, you're an absolute utter asshole. Yada. I did this to my brother for years. I'm 22 and he is 20, but more on the psychological side. He was a loving and talkative kid and loved me like a kid usually loves his older brother. When he had enough, 13 years I think, he changed and became a very quiet person, and basically we did not have a relationship for 10 years, living in the same house. Last year we started to talk a little bit more and I couldn't be happier. I basically ruined his childhood and changed him as a person, and probably caused a lot of psychological problems, but I wouldn't know because he is a very closed person now. I regret what I did every single day, and I don't have the courage to ask for forgiveness, since I definitely don't deserve it. I love him and I wish I could go back in time to change this. Why the fuck do you sound just like my older brother? He's 16 and I almost never talk to or see him throughout the day, but whenever I do he just has to do something to hurt me. I'm glad you changed and I hope my boss brother does too, cause I'm about to pack pie shit and move in with my dad. Honestly, it was comforting in an odd way to read this. My brother was very similar when we were younger, and would lash out at me physically. He was older, and stronger. I remember one day he got mad and chased me. I tried to hide in my closet, which didn't lock. He found me, and sat himself against the door so I couldn't reach it. And he just started kicking me. He kicked me and blocked the door, and it was a while before my mom found us to tell us it was lunchtime. He made up some lie that I was crying because I stuck my tongue out at him and thought I would get in trouble. I was crying because my ribs were bruising. I always wondered if he felt guilty over the way he treated me. Reading this post, it gives me hope that he does. My brother was like this. He tormented me endlessly. I'm still filled with a memory from it and I still flinch whenever someone even raises a hand near me. Address this to him that you feel bad. Not saying anything is garbage if you. I know exactly how you feel. I used to do things like this and worse to my sister when we were kids and I feel like the worst human being for the things I did to her. It's hard to remember that stuff when you get older and have developed empathy. You forget about it for a while until all of a sudden it all comes back and you feel sick to your stomach about how terrible you were. And #X200B. Sorry, I just relay too hard. I'll get downvoted for this, but good lord, the comments are antagonizing you to the bitter end so they can get an easy reason to be morally superior. I don't think that's the point of r/confession. All people have flaws, some more than others. If you had the courage to type all that down and post it in the internet, I'm sure you'll have the courage to apologize to your cousin. Good luck, op. You're a fucking cunt. Geez, I find it reassuring that you recognize your old, terrible behavior. Do you think there might have been something in your life that was causing you to act this way? Usually kids act like this when they are being abused, but it isn't always obvious abuse. An overly controlling parent, parents in a bad relationship, etc. I am not saying you should excuse your behavior, but what's past has passed, and understanding it might help you to come to terms with other things in your life. I'm happy you grew up and realized your mistakes. Not to sound rude or out of line, but can I ask what was going through your head when you would hurt him? My brother abused me constantly and still would if he lived with us, and I just need to know the thought processes to not piss him off by accident. Again, I'm happy you grew up and learned from your mistakes, and I hope you do apologize if you haven't already. My wife had a similar situation with one of her cousins who took the abuse to an even higher level since she is a girl. My wife reached out to her cousin not too long ago to see if he remembered, and he totally ghosted her. She doesn't blame her cousin, she just wanted to talk about it and kind of move past it once it was all talked about and amends were made. I think you should talk to your cousin about all of this. Show him this post even. Either way, you owe him a major apology for being a complete ass to him, and for, potentially killing him. I was this way with my siblings. My parents were not particularly empathetic people, and so I struggled to learn the same. But eventually I did learn empathy, and I did feel guilty. The thing is, guilt isn't a particularly good/helpful place to stay. Sure, some guilt is healthy, but in the end that doesn't really help the people you hurt. Once I became an adult, I apologized, and I try to treat my siblings good now, and our relationships are much better. My sister will bring it up once in a while, but I really haven't been an asshole like that to her in 10 years. While my 19 brother is like this to my 8 brother since birth. He still hasn't changed to treat him any better. I'm proud of you for recognizing your mistakes and rectifying them. You should apologize to him, and after this I hope you two become even closer. He comes around because he looks up to you no matter how you treat him. Become a better role model for him. Good luck! Remind me, my brother was an absolute shithead to me when we were growing up, but just like your cousin, I kept wanting to do things with him because he was my big brother and I still looked up to him for some reason. Today, he's 30 and has profusely apologized for the things he did. I totally forgive him, though I still like to joke about how much he's messed me up for life lol. Having said that, he absolutely owed me the apologies that he's given. You really should apologize to the people you've wronged, even if you were just a kid yourself. Smile. Good luck. You should talk to him and apologize. Out of curiosity, was there ever a time you were picked on, or was there a contemporary who had picked on you at school or made you feel inadequate? Any psychologists out there see this kind of behavior in adolescence often? Does it typically come from a learned behavior, or is it just testing out how to deal with anger/frustration? What makes it stop or the perpetrator change their mind? You need help. Even if it seems like it's okay now, that is not normal behavior by any stretch. You need to apologize. You've got to apologize. Then you need to get yourself into some therapy so you can learn to forgive yourself. Best wishes. Attempted murder. It's nice that you're thinking of apologizing to him. I think he will eventually appreciate it. But I still do think you should look into why you behave this way. It will help you in your future relationship. Maybe you didn't know how to express your friendship or love or loss. Go to therapist, reflect. See what helps you. No one can change their childhood, but they can move on. You're a crazy MF. Maybe you should get yourself checked before you kill someone someday. Damn dude, you were a shitty person. Poor dude still considered/looked up to you even after all the shit you put him through. Least you can do is apologize to him now. Literally sounds like you tried to kill him. WTF caused you to do this? You need help. 4 Had a lot happen in my life and I rarely tear up, but the thought of you doing shit like this to a child almost had me crying. Jesus. I was the same way towards my little sister when I was younger. She was 2 years behind me. I gave her hell when our parents weren't around. Oh, it's my turn to do the dishes? Too bad, you're going to do those dishes or get beat on. Or, I would just blackmail her with the secrets she entrusted to me. Recently, I've apologized officially to her. I told her how horrible I felt and that it was so wrong on so many levels. She accepted my apology, but I still feel ashamed. To this day, I don't know why I was like that. I truly believe I was psychopathic and may have turned out that way as an adult, but for some reason, didn't. You were kind of a terrible person. I hope, instead of spilling your guts here to absolve some of your guilt, you'll instead reach out to those you've hurt and have heart-to-heart talk, complete with sincere apology. You should seriously think about apologizing. I would really recommend seeing a therapist. Demonstrating these behaviors as old as adolescence can be considered very serious and are early signs of sociopathy. One of the most common traits of sociopathy is retelling past brutal behavior to new audiences to get off on their reactions, for lack of a better term. It also tests the waters and is a safe way to study how people respond to this. If you are a sociopath, I don't think you should hate yourself obviously, but you should definitely receive counseling. Narcissism is at this point incurable, but you can develop healthy coping mechanisms. Karma is such a petty bitch. Imagine having a child you care about, probably hard to imagine for a sociopath like yourself, and someone treating them like that? Now this is what I'm here for. This is a confession. You don't deserve to live. Reminds me of the plot of A Silent Voice quite a bit. It's on Netflix. You should definitely check it out. It's apparent that you were never a younger sibling/equivalent. This is life. It is why we youngest siblings usually grow up to be a tough bastards. All the Reddit psychologists will have a field day with the deeper issues connected to what I've said, but seriously, as long as he is all extremities still attached and didn't receive lifelong physical damage, all you did was make him stronger. Bro, you're a future serial killer. Wow, who are your parents? Surely if you're a shit kid you were shit elsewhere too and your parents never corrected bad behavior? I'm glad you realize now. I hope you apologize and remain friends with your cousin. It may be worth noting too to consider your actions in your personal life too. Just as an example, my brother abused me and our cousin. He has tried to apologize to me multiple times. And while I would be willing to accept his apology, I find it insincere because of how he acts with his own children. He's called his 8-year-old daughter a whore and grabbed his young children by the throat in drunken moments of anger. So when he apologizes to me for doing those things in the past, I get intensely angry, and refuse to have a relationship just based on that. I don't know if this helps at all. I wish you luck on your journey. Self-honesty and truth is always a challenging path, but one that generally leads to a better version of yourself, so I commend you for taking steps down that road. You're a cunt, fuck you. As a dad, I'm wondering why there wasn't parent involvement at some point. You should tell your cousin how you feel now. I was a lot like you when I was a kid. I was always bullying people, including my brothers. When I got older, I realized how big of a shit I was. I talked to my brothers and now we are really close. I can relate to being an awful person as a child. When I was 10 and my twin brothers were 5, I used to single one of them out and exclude just one twin from whatever I was doing. I don't even remember or understand my reasoning behind it, but I sure feel shitty for it now. Also have beaten both of them over video game rage once because they accidentally deleted a Forge map I was working on in Halo Reach. Oh my god, I'm gonna cry. Holy shit, you're a piece of shit. The trampoline thing could have killed him with his head hitting the rocks. Not my proudest fap. This post made me sick. That poor kid. Makes you wonder what other shit he had to deal with to tolerate that abuse from you. I have an uncle who is around my age plus 3 years older. He would do the same to me, tormented me, hit me, rolled me down a hill I a barrel. He doesn't need to apologize, I can tell from his actions he feels bad, and he is such a nice guy now. I don't hold it against him. Geez, your poor cousin, I hope you've apologized. I wish I could tell you that you were just a kid, but I won't lie. That's pretty messed up. I think you should set the record straight with your cousin and apologize. You don't want this to be a weight on your shoulders, which it will become. Much offense off, but I would have beat the shit out of you. I can relate, man. You're aware and you care about the past wrongs that happened. I thank you for that. Please apologize to him ASAP. Tell him how you truly feel. Make no excuses, but tell him that you've changed and that you're very disgusted by your former behavior. Even if he doesn't forgive you, keep being a good person. I don't care what you're like now, you did indeed sound like an absolute cunt of a child. Saying this on here isn't going to do any good though. Come clean to your family. Make amends, if they don't disown you. That's the only way you'll relieve any guilt. Personally, I think you should carry that guilt for the rest of your life. You could have killed your cousin. You need to apologize the house down to your cousin and figure out why you did those things and make sure you never do them again. I can tell you one thing. I have a cousin that screwed me over a lot of memories in my life, and I want nothing to do with her. She knows, and though now she's apologizing for the stupid shit and stunts she's pulled, I'm done with her. Before it's too little too late, you'd better apologize for it now, make amends and move forward. I have a serious question to ask you if you're willing to answer. You consider yourself a shit child. What impact did your parents have on this behavior? I'm raising a child and I'm about to have another, a boy, this time, and I'm curious about how you were patented. Did you hide this from your parents? Were you acting out because of your environment? Could your parents done something differently that would have made you less abusive towards others? Did they instill empathy? If so, how? Life has a way of getting you back. Your time will come, just sit tight, Jeff. I don't know what to say since this hits really home for me. I had a cousin that was absolute a terror for me and my brothers. He used to do some nasty pranks and hurts us on really mean ways and treated us with more if we decided to tell our parents. This started around when I was 7. My younger brother 5 and older 8, and lasted for 2 years until he almost broke my younger brother's arm and I flipped out by the point that our mothers had to stopping me for punching his face multiple times. We are adults now and I still hate that fucker and he keeps the distance from me since after that event he's still tried to do things with me and my younger brother. Family meetings are fun though. When he tries to pull some conversation I just say get the fuck out my presence. Sorry for the vent equals but this was way too personal for me. It sounds like somewhere around the age of 16 you learned empathy. It's good people like your cousins that makes shitty kids like you into decent human beings. Confessions like these should require a throwaway account. As a parent, how do you identify and fix this behavior? I'd imagine it would be kind of hard because I know when I was a kid, I'd be good when my parents were around, but when they're gone, I was totally evil to my younger siblings, cousins. Do people just grow out of that phase? You were a little psychopath cunt. I don't really buy that you feel bad about it, and if you do it's because you care more about your own guilt than how your cousin feels. You need therapy. I notice you're a furry who plays Minecraft. Reddit stereotypes are a fucking gift that keep on giving. You should apologize. I mean this partially as a joke. And well, partially serious. Some URL. You owe a life debt, bro. Think about that. Whenever he had bullies, you better back him up and take that expulsion quick. He needs some cash 'cause he a broke-ass college student? Guess what, you're gonna be there. He's getting pressured to do some crack? You better slide in like a motherfucker and take that glass-piped dick in yo mouth and suck it. Feel me? Get on it. Time starts now. I feel where you're coming from. I used to do the exact same type of shit to my brother all the time. It's ironic reading your confession because it feels like I'm reading something out of my own brain with the word cousin plastered where brother should be. The abuse, narcissism, acting like I cared about the pain I caused him when I only cared about getting in trouble. All of it. Spot on. I remember being in your shoes a few years ago, and how I handled the situation to make it all better, so I'll give you my advice based on that experience. I can tell you this, you should apologize. Definitely do it. Make sure to plan it out, too. When I went to my brother and apologized to him after all the shit I put him through, he was initially cold and calloused, saying it didn't matter and all that. But it did, I knew it did and still know to this day. If I would have been prepared for that, It would have made the apology a lot better, because then I wouldn't have been so caught off guard. When you plan it, make sure to give him the chance to explain how he remembers it, and how he feels about all of it, then move forward from there. To make it right, you have to lay it out on the table, then you have to pay close attention to him, spend time with him, and give him the empowerment you know he deserves. Inside, you know what you did was wrong. You know what you did hurt him, and it still affects him to this day. You need to remedy those scars by putting in time and effort to ease his subconscious fear of you by replacing your fearful image in his mind with a benevolent one. It takes time, patience, and consistency, but it will be worth it because it will free him of the effects you had on him, while freeing your conscience as well. Give him guidance. You're the older one, so take responsibility. Be a warm and nurturing leader to him. Be the kind of person he can trust in, rely on, and refer to for wisdom when he feels lost. A huge reason why you feel so guilty isn't only because of how you traumatized him, but also because of how you wasted your opportunity to step up to the plate as the older and be a guide/protector to the younger one. You failed to set an example and be a leader, and now you've set yourself down a path of always besmirching that responsibility. It's a subconscious fear that is necessary because it will guide you to make the actions that will make the change in your life necessary to live as the person you're supposed to be. You got this. Edit some words, syntax errors, and added sentences. I know this will get banned, but hopefully you see it first. Kill yourself. You are a bad person and people like you don't change. Tell him it was all a prank. You should ask for his forgiveness, then you should forgive yourself. If the roles were reversed, wouldn't you forgive him? Yes. Give yourself the same break. If you wouldn't forgive him, then you really need to work on that. Good op that you realize you have made a mistake. Apologize and express your feelings. You are allowed to make mistakes, and no one on here is to decide whether or not you're deserving of forgiveness. It wasn't okay for you to treat him that way, and I'm glad you realize it, but he deserves to hear an apology from you. Not sure why everyone on this thread thinks treating him disgustingly for admitting this will do anything at all but make others more hesitant to openly admit their mistakes. Come on now, it's never too late to say sorry. This could still affect him, you never know. Next time you see him, tell him you're sorry for the way you treated him when he was younger. Make sure he knows he didn't deserve any of it. Apologize. Now. Your cousin may have been more resilient than you and more empathic. Maybe that's why he still treated you with care. Maybe he saw something sad in your life and thought that you needed him to be there. The way you treated him was horrendous, but I'm glad you realize this now. Or maybe the most fucked up part was that he was treated even more poorly at home and you're the only other person who would play with him, and that's why he put up with your bullshit. Either way, you should apologize for being a complete turd. I'm glad you feel like shit about it. If I knew who you were, I'd find you, plug a PS1 controller into your asshole and make you dance around like it coincided with the buttons I was pressing. If I thought you did it wrong, I'd whip you in the face with the cable and then plug it back in. I do this over and over again while your cousin sat there watching. I still to this day remember things I did at about that age. I am 50 and let go of things probably 10 to 15 years ago. The things we do when we're young does not make who you are today. Maybe just tell him you're sorry and that will let that shit go. You'll probably have a good laugh. Give yourself a break, friend. The ones who start like this and don't turn it around become wife beaters, animal abusers, and murderers. You did well with yourself. Hey man, apologizing will clear everything. Yeah, but you don't see me petting and playing with a cow. Dude, you have to talk this shit out with him. Apology, explain how you feel about it now and how fucked it was, and you see that now. At least try and make it right. Let him know you're aware of how messed up it was. It's best you can do and the least you owe him. Not sure if it's too much or not, but I would approach him with a hug or something before apologizing, to really show how sorry you are. I have been like this up until I was 15, and one day I pissed off my older brother so much that he slapped the shit out of me. He hit me so hard it left an imprint of the back of his hand for the following 3 days, but that slap somehow changed me. It was what I needed, cause after that I went to my room, laid in the bed and started laughing. And now for some reason every time I get mad I end up laughing like a weirdo. Being nice to him from now on would be a good way of making up. Nothing about your actions was even remotely okay. You feel horrible, and that's how anyone with a shred of decency would feel. The good news is that you changed. If you wouldn't do the same thing again, are you still the same person who did it back then? Not really. You're a different person, not the abusive monster you were back then. As stated above, you owe it to your cousin to apologize and do what you can to make it right. After that, I think you have the right to be free of all guilt. If you aren't the person who did that anymore, and you've done everything you can to make it right, there's no reason to feel guilty anymore. And be there for your cousin. He was crazy loyal to you. It's time to return the favor. I am gonna go far left here and say that you should cut yourself a little slack. Kids are rotten. Would it be a stretch to say that you had a bit of a troubled home life? I am not trying to make excuses for your behavior, but the fact of the matter is you were a child. I would be more concerned if you were still acting out this way now that you have grown. Your ability to self-reflect and feel remorse is a sign that you are human, you know the difference between right and wrong, and that above all else you do have a moral compass to guide you in the future. Talk to your cousin, make amends and speak your truth. But please learn to forgive yourself and make better choices. Do me a favor. If you haven't already, have a heart-to-heart and apologize to him. You have no idea the positive psychological effect this small gesture has on a person that has had to suffer abuse. Real, sincere regret and apology really makes a difference, even if it doesn't seem like it. For both of you, did you need to take him someplace like to dinner or fishing and let him know how disgusted you are with yourself and how sorry you are to him? It takes a lot to admit something like this. Good for you, I hope you're in therapy. Honestly, sounds like you don't feel any different now, you just hide it better. You need to apologize and make it up to him. If not, this post and confession too will be all about you. How did you feel when you were assaulting your cousin? You need to confess your sins and go to the family, tell them what went on, then go to the police and do the same. First of all, apologize sincerely to him with no excuses. But also remember, we have all committed a sin or wrongdoing. When we finally grow, if we remember that past memory and feel guilty or cringe at it, it just means we've matured and become better. What you did was wrong, but I'm glad you understood. You've grown up and your cousins will appreciate if you spend more quality time with them. Don't worry, I think he would really appreciate it if you just say, hey, remember when we were kids? I was really mean to you. I was a shitty friend. Sorry dude, and then you'll see how he react. You should get him a nice gift or something. Yeah, fair one. Don't think the intention was to kill though. Just being a mean little shit. Children can do really shitty things. My older sibling tried to actually kill me when I was kid. They would bite me and shove their hands down my throat in an attempt to suffocate me. They would beat me, and they verbally bullied me pretty frequently. I'm not closer to anyone than my sibling, we're best friends. Both of us grew and changed over the years. I'm sorry that I don't have an explain for it, but children can be horrible. You can't let the things you did as a child define you. The fact that you feel remorse shows that you've changed. The best course of action is to talk to your cousin about it. The way you ended your confession confuses me a bit. Were you having blackouts as a child? And where were your parents while these things happened? If that's too personal, I understand if you don't answer. I didn't mean to pry, I just want to understand. Apologize ASAP, my G. I believe you need some serious psychotherapy. Those are the kinds of things that kids do as children when they turn out to be serial killers as adults. A therapist could help you identify the sources of your extreme hostility, and maybe, eventually, your cousin could forgive you and you could forgive yourself. Wow, you were a real piece of shit. He's family and probably looked up to you. I have a super hard time feeling any sort of sympathy towards you. I feel super sorry towards your cousin. Good confession. Your former self was a true piece of shit and should have drowned slowly. Going forward, pay it back by teaching other pieces of shit to do the right thing. Also be a decent person and let your cousin know you're not like that anymore. I think your cousin should beat the fuck out of you first, before accepting your apology. Who does that shit to someone smaller than them, especially a family member who wanted nothing more than to get along with you? I hate it when pos like you use the fact that you were a child when you this as an excuse. You knew exactly what you were doing and enjoyed doing it. I hope he fucks you up. At least you recognize what a little sociopath you were? The best you can do is make a living amends by being the family he deserves. Horribly pathetic. Wow. This was so fucked. That's further than narcissism, you were a goddamn sadist. And yet this whole post is centered around yourself and how it makes you feel. You haven't changed as much as you think you have. I agree with everyone. Apologize and make this right. See a counselor to sort out your feelings on why you did what you did. The guilt will eat you alive if you don't. Brave to come forward. My man, you can't change the past, but you can make it up for him and do good things for the guy. It's a redemption arc we must all go through. If I were him, I'd never, ever forgive you. Go fuck yourself, you swine. Dude, what the fuck is wrong with you? Go talk to someone. I see a lot of people are shaming him, which I totally understand, but what's the point? He has realized his wrongdoings and has said that he's going to apologize. He has become a better person, it seems like. And another thing I don't think people realize is, where were their parents? What drove a kid/young teen to behave like this? Was he mentally ill? Did he go through abuse himself? Was he neglected? When I was little, my cousin fucked me in the ass and made me suck his dick afterward all the time. So yeah, at least you didn't do that. Why did you abuse him though? It's not rare that kids abuse others when they are themselves abused in a certain way.